Whether you're hosting a corporate event, wedding, conference, concert, or any other special gathering, our comprehensive range of services will exceed your expectations and elevate your event to new heights. RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. Visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com.
We've got the experience, the passion, and the beach to make your event a smash hit. Whether it's a romantic wedding, a lively sports venue, or a rocking high school dance, Troutland Entertainment has you covered. Contact them at 330-414-4261 or email them at troutlandent@gmail.com. That's troutlandent@gmail.com.
And welcome everybody to Sports on Tap. This is the high school football recap show presented by Raymond Felton State Farm Insurance, located out of beautiful Hudson, Ohio. This is the Week 7 high school football recap show. You're watching us live on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe. Get the notifications when we're about to go on the air. Follow us on Twitter/X at SOT Podcasts. We're also on Facebook at Sports on Tap. Our website is sportsontappodcast.com. We can also get us on Spotify at Sports on Tap, and also on Threads at SOT underscore podcast as well on Threads. And then our email is sportsontappodcast@gmail.com. For any questions, comments, stats, concerns, what have you, send them all there. Lot to get to. We are 7 weeks through the season, and we are really getting to the point where teams are starting to jockey for playoff positioning. So we're really going to start getting into that here in the next coming weeks. We're not quite there yet. There's still 30% of the season left to go, and with the expanded playoffs, a lot of playoff spots are still at stake here. Some teams are pretty locked into where they're at and know if they're going to be hosting at least 1 or 2 games. But due to the expanded format, there's a lot. It doesn't seem like any team's really out of it unless you don't have any wins this year. Unless you're in Division I, because you can probably sneak a win at the last game and get yourself a playoff spot that way. But that's neither here nor there. We are with Rob Troutman, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy, and Noah Jacobson. We have a couple games of the week to go through during our respective conferences. We will be joined later by Calix Lemp from Wadsworth. He of the game-winning touchdown in that absolute barn burner between Wadsworth and Nordonia that Noah was at, so he'll talk about that game. We're also going to be joined by Wadsworth coach Justin Todd. He's also going to join us as well. So talk a little bit about the Wadsworth program. Again, another great season that they're building here. They took a little bit of a hit early in the game, but as we have come to know from Wadsworth, they persevered and they stepped up. They've had a lot of underclassmen in the last few years really make their mark on the varsity team, and this year is no different. So we have a lot to talk about with Calix and Coach Todd in a little bit. All right. Oh, here comes the obligatory peanut sighting. He's right there. He's right there.
Peanut.
Come on.
Peanut.
We got to get him a sandwich board.
What are you doing?
I know. I got to figure out.
Come over a little bit.
We got to get like a tiny little sandwich
She's
board
right
that
here.
has our.
Just get on the screen. Oh, now she don't want to be on the screen.
Oh,
okay.
no,
Anyway,
she's camera shy.
Yeah.
After we talked to Coach Todd and Calix, we will have our Raymond Felton State Farm Insurance Player of the Week poll wrap up there. Also, we will be talking about where we are going next week, and later this week, make sure you follow us. Check out our Twitter page and our website. The Power 10 will be released later this week for Week 7. A little bit of movement, given that we had 2 undefeated teams play each other, and then there's been a little bit of movement on the bottom part too. A team that we haven't talked a whole lot about, but they've quietly made a lot of moves here. They snuck up into the bubble area. We'll talk about. You can check that out on our Twitter page later this week. All right, as we normally do, let's start with the Southwestern Conference. Rob Troutman has got that taken care of for us. Rob, take it away.
All right, guys, and maybe we'll even have Peanut show up a little bit later in the show, going here on Sports on Tap. But the Southwestern Conference for Week 7. Let's first start off right there. Olmsted Falls taking on Amherst. And Olmsted Falls, the only time Olmsted Falls head coach Tom DeLuca lost to Amherst was in his first year of coaching. So could Amherst change that? They tried hard. And that actually was from the Morning Journal. Mark Perez-Kwaiwani had that. I want to thank him. He does a great job with the Morning Journal, and they have all kinds of good reads there. So check them out. The Bulldogs, they would start quick in this game. They started off with a 14-0 lead. It was Jimmy Rossell and running back Owen Singleton scoring. But finally, Amherst quarterback Cole Norris, he would get a good solid drive into the second quarter. He went 60 yards, and scoring was at a minimum for Amherst. So Cole Norris, he started going a little bit there, got a touchdown, but then at half it was 24-13. As in the second quarter, it was Amherst quarterback Cole Norris. He was held to 19 yards in the second half, and the run game really didn't have much going on. But Owen Singleton, what a game he had as Olmsted Falls offense put up 44 points in this game, and they stayed in control and really never let Amherst get into this one. 44-13 was the final score in this one. Olmsted Falls improves to 5-2, 2-2 in conference, and Amherst also now 5-2, 2-2 as they lose back-to-back games and will look to get back on track next week. Berea Mid-Park versus Avon, and the Avon offense, they got started early and often. Quarterback Nolan Good started with a rush of 28 yards. That would be a touchdown, and then he would follow up a pass to wide receiver Cole Kepner, who actually finished. So Nolan Good didn't score there. He passed it to Cole Kepner for the touchdown. At halftime, though, the Avon offense was up 28-0. And give credit to the Avon defense also holding Berea Mid-Park's offense to 0 points at that point in time. Then eventually the Eagles put in quarterback Blake Elder, who also threw a touchdown pass in this game. Berea Mid-Park, they did score on a 38-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown from Hosler. Avon cruises in this one, though, 49-7. Quarterback Nolan Good, he had 1 rushing touchdown and 2 passing. It was Avon wide receiver Matt Maxey. He had 8 catches in this game for 109 yards. And for the Titans, it was quarterback Danny Bowser. He threw for 136 yards. And it's 1-6. Berea Mid-Park falls to 0-4 in conference as Avon improves to 7-0, 4-0 in conference. All right, moving right along to Midview versus North Ridgeville. And throw out the records in this game, as this is one of those rivalries that every game seems to be close. But for this one, the Rangers, they jumped out in front very early as wide receiver Charlie Steinmetz and running back Zach Barnhart. They would score touchdowns early, and all of a sudden, Midview is down 14-0 in this game. Wide receiver Dior Jones, he eventually would get the Middies on the board as he would take a punt 55 yards to get the Middies on the board. The Rangers answered, though, with an Austin DeShazo field goal, and he's been solid all around for field goal kicking for the Rangers. It was 17-7 at halftime. Then North Ridgeville, they came out firing again with Steinmetz and Barnhart scoring touchdowns. For Midview running back Marcus McMahon, he would score twice, but it was not enough as North Ridgeville holds on for the 38-20 win. North Ridgeville now 6-1, 3-1 in conference, with the lone loss coming to Avon as Midview falls to 4-3, 1-3 in conference. Avon Lake traveling to Elyria. Avon Lake coming off their big win at Amherst. And for Avon Lake, I think they're happy to have quarterback Alex Afalter back. It's been a different story with him. He came back in the Amherst game and played a big part. He was, again, a big part of this one. He was a part of all 4 scores for the Shoremen as he had passing for 3 touchdowns, also rushed for another. The Shoreman defense, they were tough in this one, pitching a shutout. Avon Lake wins 28-0 on touchdowns by Michael Summerfield, Aiden Stewart, Alex Afalter, and Luke Stewie. And first, congratulations to Aiden Stewart. He got his first offer from the Kent State Golden Flashes. And, Sports on Tap seems to be lucky for some of these players. They come on our show and look what happened. Just kidding. Not really.
The
but
magic. The Sports on Tap juju, baby.
I know.
It's good every time.
No, probably not, but, we'll just go with that. But congratulations to him. But Avon Lake gets a 28-0 win here. They improved to 5-2, 3-1 due to Shoreman. And Elyria falls to 0-7, 0-4. The SWC Player of the Week, the Raymond Felton State Farm Player of the Week for the Southwestern Conference is North Ridgeville running back Zach Barnhart. 208 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. He also had 13 yards receiving in a huge win against Midview. If you remember, I believe last year they lost to Midview, and they got back on their winning ways in a very impressive win for the Rangers. Let's look ahead to Week 8 in the Southwestern Conference. Oh, somebody's sleeping at the wheel over here. There we go. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that, buddy. In Week 8 in the Southwestern Conference, Elyria takes on Amherst, and they had a shootout last year. We have Olmsted Falls and Avon Lake. Avon takes on Midview, and North Ridgeville takes on Berea Mid-Park, and that's Week 8. Looking ahead to Week 8 in the Southwestern Conference. Some good games, no real big surprises for the most part. Some competitive games going on, but North Ridgeville again with that one loss versus Avon, and Avon just continues to roll through the Southwestern Conference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've known it's going to be pretty tough to take Avon down, and they've certainly proven that out. I mean, they took a pretty good whack from North Ridgeville, gave them a good shot at it, and Avon swatted them down pretty efficiently. Not to say that Avon still has, they got Midview, Amherst, and Avon Lake coming up, and obviously those games are not going to be easy, especially that last one against Avon Lake. You could always throw the records out when those two teams play, just with it being a rivalry game as much as it is. Olmsted Falls and Avon Lake probably the most computer points on the line there, and also battling for who will slot into that. Until Avon loses, who's going to slot into that second or third spot in the SWC? And obviously North Ridgeville has something to say about that. North Ridgeville still closes with Avon Lake and Amherst after the game against Berea Mid-Park. So there's a lot of points up in the air here. Most of the teams, if I'm not mistaken, Rob, are in playoff position right now, either in Division II, Region 6. Berea Mid-Park is still in contention for a playoff spot in Division I, Region 1, just with the nature of that the nature of that division and that region as it sits. So there's obviously still a lot to be played for here in Week 8, Rob.
Yeah, and Avon Lake's been one of those teams that's kind of been on a little bit of a roll. They won those few close games with last second touchdowns or whatever have you, and they've been winning some games. This is a big game for them this week. Them and Olmsted Falls, that's going to be a great game. Right now, if you look at where everybody sits, looking at the computer points, Avon's number 1, and 5 through 8 are North Ridgeville, Amherst, Avon Lake, and Olmsted Falls, all right there. Which Avon Lake and Olmsted Falls 7 and 8 are going to play this week. So that's a huge game. For computer points, and you just never know. I mean, Avon Lake, if they can get in stride, which it seems like they're getting some healthy players back. Luke Stewie's back, Alex A. Falter's back, their quarterback. Aiden Stewart's playing at such a high level. You could tell he's starting to get noticed. And this team is starting to hit stride right at the right time, and they're a little bit a team that I probably wouldn't want to play, but that could be a really good one, Avon and Avon Lake, like you mentioned. So let's see what happens here in going into Week 8. But a lot of these teams fighting for positioning for playoffs, which are still a little bit away.
No doubt, Rob. No doubt. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on in the Southwestern Conference as always. Rob, tremendous work. And
Thanks,
with
Ed.
that, let's shift over to the Greater Cleveland Conference. We'll go over to Noah Jacobson there. Now, he was not at a Greater Cleveland Conference game. He'll come back on with us a little bit later here, but he's going to take care of these games here in the Greater Cleveland Conference as he normally does. Noah, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, Ed. And we begin Week 7 in the Greater Cleveland Conference with the Euclid Panthers. They were traveling down to Brunswick to take on the Blue Devils, and a game was played in this one, and Coach Carter's team got his team going. They've now won 3 games in a row and are on fire in the GCC. Quarterback Sean Barnett for the Blue Devils, he was 8 of 14 for 179 yards. Running back Cooper Neal had 15 carries for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kicker Vincent Villatoro had a 36-yard field goal for the Blue Devils. Wide receiver Hayden Swarm had 3 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown. Eli Nichols did have a touchdown, and Colin Cavulak also had a touchdown. Euclid quarterback Kylan Stuball was 13 of 24 for 167 yards. Wide receiver Corday Hill had 5 catches for 62 yards. But the Brunswick Blue Devils, they've now won 3 games in a row as they beat the Euclid Panthers 37-0. Brunswick improves to 3-4, 3-1 in conference play. Euclid drops to 2-5, 1-3 in conference play. Then the next game, Cleveland Heights was traveling down to Michigan for the second time this year. They were taking on the River Rouge Panthers. This was the Panthers' second straight week facing the GCC as they lost the previous week to Menor. But this game was 0-0 at halftime until Marquise Joel Davis scored a touchdown with 4:17 left in the third quarter. But a fumble recovery by the Panthers would tie the game 7-7. And then with 58 seconds left, you want to give the ball to Marquise Davis. You give it to him for a game-winning touchdown with 58 seconds left in the game. And then the Panthers' last hope was intercepted by Kawan Reed of the Tigers to win the game, as Cleveland Heights will go on the road to Michigan to beat the Panthers 14-7. Cleveland Heights improves to 3-4. They still remain 1-2 in conference play. Then the next game, Menor was traveling to Shaker Heights, and another game was played in this game as Menor would go on the road to beat the Shaker Heights Red Raiders. Menor quarterback Scotty Fox had 3 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown in this game. Running back Jackson Farley had 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Justin Hodge had 2 touchdowns in this game. Dominic Burns also had a touchdown. And for Shaker Heights, Shakir Addy had a rushing touchdown in this game. But Menor, they would get a 45-6 victory over Shaker Heights. Menor remains undefeated at 7-0 and remain undefeated at 3-0 in the GCC. Shaker Heights drops to 2-5, 0-3 in the GCC. And then last but not least, the Strongsville Mustangs, they were traveling to Medina to take on the Bees, and the Mustangs, they came out on top in this one. Folks, they've now won 3 games in a row as they would get the victory on the road in Medina. Strongsville quarterback Nolan Beard was 3 of 6 for 75 yards and a touchdown, but he did have 7 carries for 50 yards and 3 touchdowns in this team. So great stat there by Nolan Beard, who had 3 rushing touchdowns in this game. Running back Sam Damakia had 18 carries for 110 yards. Wide receiver Will Dasher had 2 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. And then J.J. Pleasant had 2 kickoff return touchdowns. One was an 83-yard punt return touchdown, and the other was an 80-yard kick return touchdown. You don't see that too happen by one player who makes a punt and a kick return touchdown in this game. Nathan Rodak had a 24-yard fumble recovery return touchdown, as Strongsville will go on the road to beat Medina for the first time since 2018, 49-14. Strongsville improves to 4-3. They are undefeated in conference play at 3-0. Medina drops to 2-5, 1-3 in conference play. And then moving forward in week 8 in the Greater Cleveland Conference, Menor will be traveling to Brunswick. Cleveland Heights will be traveling to Medina. Euclid will be taking Erie of Pennsylvania, and then Shaker Heights will be traveling to Strongsville. That game will be played on a Thursday night. The GCC Player of the Week for Week 7 was Strongsville defensive back who made a big kick game in this one. J.J. Pleasant had an 83-yard punt return touchdown and an 80-yard kick return touchdown, as that is the Week 7 recap in the Greater Cleveland Conference and Week 8 schedule in the Greater Cleveland Conference.
Noah, great work as always. As we had talked about Strongsville a little bit last week, and we can continue to talk about them. Not only did they get a great effort on special teams, 3 touchdowns on special teams, the punt return, a kickoff return, and a forced fumble on a kickoff, but then they returned for a touchdown. They dominated Medina thoroughly in that contest, and they are on a roll right now. 4 out of 5. Their losses to a very good Benedictine team in that stretch, and they have a pretty good shot against Shaker Heights coming up here to set themselves up with a really good game against Menor in Week 9, which at this point it's looking it could be a de facto conference championship game in Week 9, depending on if Brunswick has something to say about that against Menor. Let's talk about Brunswick real quick. And quite honestly, for as much as Brunswick guys are on this podcast, we really haven't talked about them this much. So good for us for not doing that. But finally, but with 3 wins in the column now, they're getting some confidence here, and they do tend to play up to the level of their competition. And you wonder, with both Strongsville and Brunswick, Noah, with their new coaches, now that the coaches have had some time to get into game weeks, to game plan, to get to know their team a little bit better. How much do you think that has an impact, that of an impact has that had on both Coach Trusnick and Coach Carter being able to get a little bit more familiar with the players over the course of the season?
Well, I really think for both coaches, it's been telling the players probably like, hey, guys, we can compete with like these top teams in the GCC. And you've seen it by Strongville. They beat the Cleveland Heights Tigers and recently the Medina Bees and then Brunswick. They almost had a chance to beat Cleveland Heights in this game, but they have now won 3 games in a row for Coach Carter. So I really think these two teams possibly might have a chance, maybe to have possibly the next few weeks, maybe going at it for maybe a Week 10 competitive game coming up in a few weeks.
And that game is always going to be, I mean, that game will be played at Strongsville at Packatan Stadium. That game is one of the best public school rivalries in the state of Ohio. There's no question about that, no matter what the records are. So, Noah, again, great job on the Greater Cleveland Conference. We're looking forward to seeing we will talk about where you're going to be at. It will be in this conference. So Noah's going to return back to the Greater Cleveland Conference. He'll tell you where he's going to be later in the show. Thanks, Noah.
Thank you, Ed.
All right. And Noah, we'll get back to you here shortly. But let's shift over to our friends in the Suburban League Natty and the American Conference here, the Suburban League. So as we normally do, we will start with Josh Jeffy with the Natty. Let's get it rolling, Josh.
Thank you very much, Ed. So we had a couple not so competitive games, but then we had a couple very competitive games. And as you mentioned, Noah will be coming back here shortly. But we're going to start off with the Hudson Explorers, kind of getting back to form of the Hudson that we know and have appreciated over the past few seasons. But they came out, and it was all Hudson in this one as they defeated Brecksville 35-0. Hudson had all facets of their offense running at 100% in this one. It all started with Reno Furry. He started the scoring in the first quarter with a 4-yard touchdown run. Furry only finished with 37 yards and 8 carries, but that score started it off on the right foot for the Explorers. From there, it was the Nathan Judy show. He threw 4 touchdown passes, 1 to Jaden Carlton and 3 to Louis Castellarian. Judy was a solid 19 of 22 for 261 yards and 4 touchdowns. As we mentioned, Castellarian had 10 receptions, 163 yards, and those 3 scores. Tough night for the Bees, though, coming off their first victory last week. They could not get anything going. Hudson improves to 4-3. They are 3-1 in the Natty. Brecksville drops to 1-6 overall, 1-3 in conference play. Now, this next game recap that we have, same score, same dominant performance by the winning team's quarterback, North Royalton, with a big 35-0 victory over the Stowe Monroe Falls Bulldogs, 35-0, as I said. And this is not the same recap, but Bears quarterback Joey Kinney had only 3 incompletions on this night, similar to that of Nathan Judy. He finished 12 of 15 for 298 yards and 4 touchdowns. 5 of those receptions went to Mannix Wowsko. He had 142 yards and 2 scores. Nin Piazza added 98 yards on 3 receptions and a score. Grady Ball did have a rushing touchdown for the Bears as they blanked the Bulldogs 35-0. Once again, Stowe just could not get anything going on any aspect of the game. Now, on to my last recap before I send it over to Noah. This was a awesome game between two teams that are trying to find their way in the conference play, trying to get everything in order to maybe make a run and get hot before the playoffs start. But it was Twinsburg and Solon, and this game was tied at 7 at halftime. And in the third quarter, Solon took the lead on a goal line score from running back Aiden Jefferson. And then down 14-7, it was Twinsburg quarterback Joey Pollack who scored from the goal line to tie the game at 14. Then this was a back and forth affair. The Tigers would then take a lead, 8 minutes left, when J.D. Okuma would haul in an 84-yard touchdown reception. On the night, he had 4 receptions, none bigger than the 84-yarder. He totaled 105 yards on the night. Solon's Kyer Robinson tied the game again at the 5-minute mark left in the fourth quarter when he hit Michael Rutsky from 23 yards out. But as once again, Tigers quarterback Joey Pollack, that was the hero of the game. He scored a rushing touchdown from 7 yards out. However, the extra point was no good, so the score was 27-21, but Solon could not respond, and the Tigers come away with a hard-fought victory. Some stats from the Tigers. Pollock finished with 230 yards passing, 82 yards rushing, and 4 touchdowns. Lucas Kinesland had 105 yards rushing for Twinsburg, and R.J. Ruffin had 7 receptions for 105 yards in this game. With the win, Twinsburg improves to 3-4. They are 1-3. That's their first conference win. Solon drops to 2-5, and the Comets are still looking for their first win as a member of the Suburban League National Division. Now, I mentioned once again for the third time in this little recap, Noah actually had the privilege of going to see probably one of the best games of the year. And that was between 2 undefeated teams, the Nordonia Knights and the Wadsworth Grizzlies. So I'm going to toss it over to Noah. Noah, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, Josh. And this was a big game at the Suburban Eddie. 6-0 Nordonia, 6-0 Wadsworth. I mean, the stakes could not be higher in this game, ladies and gentlemen. And for the first couple of drives in this game, it looked like these two defenses kind of playing ball a little bit the first couple of drives. But it wasn't until Zach Weiss scored a touchdown with 1:28 to go in the first quarter to give the Grizzlies a 6-0 lead. And then Ben Chester, what a night he had. He started off with a rushing touchdown with 9:12 left to go in the second quarter to tie the game at 6-6. But Wadsworth would strike back as Cooper Gray would have the first of his 2 touchdowns coming in with 8:50 left to go in the second quarter. But then Ben Chester would have his second rushing touchdown in this game to give Nordonia the lead back, the lead 13-12 in this game with 3:45 left to go. But then Wadsworth, they would strike back again with 1:59 left to go as they would score a touchdown. Then we take the lead 20-13 with 1:59 left to go. And then Nordonia kicker Riley Edgehouse got a field goal to go to cut the halftime lead to 20-16 in this one. But Ben Chester, he would get his third rushing touchdown in this game with 5:08 left to go in the third quarter to give Nordonia a 23-20 lead left to go. And as we enter the fourth quarter, kicker Jack Dinwiddie made a field goal to tie the game at 23-23 with 8:49 left to go in the fourth quarter. And then the last 5 minutes was crazy, guys. Nordonia quarterback Ben Chester made a brilliant pass to Danny Hours for a touchdown. He was wide open to get the Nordonia Knights a 30-23 lead with 4:09 left to go in the fourth quarter. And then it was 4th down and 12 for the Grizzlies. And then Bryson Hall, he made a great pass to Calix to really save the game for the Grizzlies on that game. Who knows if Nordonia would have stopped? They probably would have won the game right there. But then when you give the ball to Bryson Hall, he made a great pass to Jacob Ernest for a game-tying touchdown at 30-30 with 1:42 left to go in the game. And then Nordonia, they had a chance to really win the game as Ben Chester would make a couple great runs to get it into Wadsworth territory, but the Grizzlies defense will really make a stop on the Nordonia offense as this game will be going into overtime in a high-stakes game in this game. And then Nordonia, they won the toss in overtime, so they wanted the football to begin overtime as Kylan Osby would score a touchdown in this game, but an extra point block by the Wadsworth special teams. That does not happen too often from this Grizzlies special teams. And then a touchdown and a field goal, but and Bryson Hall made that happen again. He made a game-winning touchdown pass to Caleb Lentz, was set up with a Jack Dinwiddie game-winning field goal as Wadsworth will get an unbelievable, incredible classic game you will ever see. A 37-36 win over Nordonia. They give Coach Todd his 100th victory as the Wadsworth Grizzlies head coach. Guys, this was an incredible, unbelievable classic game that you will ever see in the Suburban Natty.
Yeah, just to add a little bit onto that, Noah, good job with that. I was watching the game. The game was actually streamed, so I was able to be at home watching the second half of that game. And you pretty much described it perfectly there, Noah. This is back and forth action, high stakes. Props to Wadsworth. This is actually their second week in a row that they've won in overtime. Last week was against Hudson, this week against Nordonia. And and props to Wadsworth too as well for players like Cooper Gray step it up. They lost Gavin Madigan in this one to, I believe, an ankle injury. No word on how he is, but he's one of their main stalwarts on this team, one of their leaders. So to him to go down and the rest of the team kind of picked up, they did have another player, and I apologize, I forget his name. It was a scary moment late in that second half. He actually was carted off with a head injury, so hopefully he's doing well. But back to the game, just no one can emphasize how amazing that blocked extra point was in overtime. That is such a huge play that you don't, like Noah said, you rarely see that. Such a huge play, and that, truthfully saved the game for the Grizzlies. Then Bryson Hall came down, hit Calix Lemp for that touchdown. Just an all-around great game between two really good football teams this year and two rivals in the Natty. I think Ed is frozen. He was just so stunned. Ed, that's a.
He's
so
speechless.
stunned.
I bet you Peanut got him.
I bet you.
Well, actually, during Noah's recap there, I saw a little Eddie around. So maybe he's messing around with some wires.
Well,
but
I tell you what, Josh, how about you do this? How about we go ahead and take a quick peek at what Week 8 looks like in the Natty, and then I'll take over and run down the American Division while he figures out what Little Eddie or Peanut did to his computer there.
Yeah, let's.
Maybe Little Eddie will come and host the show now.
As we mentioned briefly, there's some games that'll be played on a special Thursday night, and the Natty is no different. There's actually two games being held on Thursday. The first is Brexman will travel to Solon, and then Twinsburg will travel to North Royalton to take on the Bears. Then on Friday night, a very big one for the Natty division. Hudson will travel to Nordonia, and then Wadsworth will take on the Stone Monroe Falls Bulldogs. So a big fun week in the Natty. But I know Sean will agree that in the America division, it was just as fun.
Oh, it was a blast in a glass, my friends. And I will start off, as I always do, with Aurora because they start with A. We'll start as Talmadge travels in to take on Aurora, and Aurora continues its dominating season with a 45-14 drubbing of Talmadge in Week 7. Greenman quarterback Ryan Dwyer had 2 touchdown passes on the night. Those 2 touchdown passes went to wide receiver Quincy John and Ben Lukasik, each securing a touchdown reception on the night. Greenman running back and do-it-all player Lucas Manderbach had 2 rushing touchdowns in the affair. Aurora running back Tommy Tartabini and Xavier Board each also kicked in with a rushing touchdown as it was a dominating performance by Aurora. Again, 45-14. Talmadge quarterback Ryan Lovelace finished the game 7 of 17 with 152 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. Those passing touchdowns went to Robbie Reed and Caleb Reef-Snyder, respectively. Talmadge, in the loss, Talmadge falls to 4-3. They are 2-2 in the division. Aurora is now 7-0, 4-0 in the American Division. Barberton looked to try and sneak away from Revere with a win there, but Revere was able to score a late touchdown in the fourth quarter to eke out a 26-21 home victory over the visiting Barberton Magics. Revere quarterback Luke Ferris finished the game 8 of 15, 117 yards and 2 touchdown passes. Also carried the ball 9 times for 60 yards on the ground. Revere wide receiver Aaron French was the recipient of those 2 touchdown passes by Luke Ferris. And Revere running back Jolyn Blanchard had 18 carries for 179 yards and 1 touchdown on the night, as Barberton was not able to ride at the back of Sean Wright, who accounted for all 3 of Barberton's touchdowns in a losing effort. Revere again secures a 26-21 victory. Barberton falls to 1-6 overall. They are 1-3 in the division, while Revere improves to 5-2 overall in the season. They are 2-2 in the division. Highland versus Kent Roosevelt. And guys, Highland just continues to do the same thing every week. They're nothing if not consistent. Highland keeps rolling with a dominating 56-7 road victory over the Rough Riders in Week 7. Copley running back Casey Miser had 15 carries, 159 yards. He had 3 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown in this game. Highland quarterback Dylan Borla finished a very efficient 12 of 15 for 275 yards and 4 touchdowns in this affair. Wide receiver Lucas Girding had 6 receptions for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns, while wide receiver Nick Dubkowski also chipped in with a touchdown reception. Highlands running back Anthony DePompe had a rushing touchdown, but this was absolute domination from the beginning by Highland as they get a 56-7 victory over the Kent Roosevelt Rough Riders. Highland, they are also 7-0. They are 4-0 in the division. Kent Roosevelt falls to 2-5. They are 1-3 in the division. And guys, our second spotlight game of the week had yours truly traveling out to Copley to take a look at that newly renovated stadium. And I got to tell you guys, it was a fantastic atmosphere. Copley came to play. They were determined to put on a show, and put on a show they did. Copley running back Jason Baines Jr. Get used to that name because he's going to be coming up a lot in this breakdown. He balled out in week 7 as he started the scoring right from the beginning with a 55-yard touchdown run on the very first play from scrimmage. Wide receiver Copley, he would go on to score 4 more touchdowns. Yes, 4 more touchdowns in the first half. He finished the game with 13 carries for 238 yards and 4 touchdowns, all of those touchdowns coming in the first half. Copley's Gabriel Mansell, the quarterback, was not to be outdone by his running back. He also had a spectacular performance through the air, throwing 3 touchdown passes. 2 of those were to wide receiver Andrew McKnight. One, a beautiful pass across the middle, coming right down about 42 yards. And then another one for Jacob, and I'm going to butcher this name. I tried to listen for it on the loudspeaker, but unfortunately I couldn't hear it. Jacob Kukowski had a touchdown pass as well. Again, another beautiful a pass from Mansell right over the middle.
Beautiful effort there, Sean.
I know, right? I took a shot, and hopefully I didn't butcher that name. The Indians also got rushing touchdowns in the form of, Ralakai Childs and Armani Brown. They both scoring a touchdown as well. And again, the Indians defense is going to get overlooked a little bit by the production of the offense, but the defense for Copley was fantastic all night, only giving up 1 touchdown, and that was to Xavier Lindsay, who ripped off a 66-yard touchdown. It was a great run by Lindsay. He hit the hole and was gone. But after that, and that came in the first quarter, after that, Copley was not letting Cuyahoga Falls really get past the 50-yard line. And on multiple occasions, I'm talking multiple occasions, there weren't a lot of punts in this game. Cuyahoga Falls was down, so they were kind of forced to go for it on 4th down, and Copley answered the bell almost every time. I can only think maybe 1 or 2 times that Cuyahoga Falls was able to convert on 4th down. So it was a really impressive performance by the Copley defense. And, again, just to give you an idea, they were able to force 2 interceptions. Those 2 interceptions coming from A.Z. Patterson and Julian Bearshak. They each getting a pick in the game. And as I mentioned, multiple turnovers in this game. Cuyahoga Falls came in and just unfortunately didn't have enough firepower to keep up with Copley. Copley gets a 62-7 victory in this game. Cuyahoga Falls falls to 2-5 overall. They are 0-4 in the conference. Copley improves to 3-4 overall. They are 2-2 in the division. Our Suburban League Player of the Week nominee, you just heard about him. I told you get used to it. Guess what? He's our Player of the Week nominee. Copley running back Jason Baines Jr., 13 carries, 234 yards, 4 first half touchdown runs. He was feeling it all night. So let's go ahead and see what we have on tap for the Suburban American Division in Week 8. Aurora will travel to take on Kent Roosevelt. Barberton will travel to take on Copley. Cuyahoga Falls travels to take on the Blue Devils of Talmadge. And Revere has to go and face Highland at Highland. Guys, what a fantastic week in the Suburban League. Not just the American, but the Natty with that fantastic, real fantastic games, close games coming down to it. It was a really, really fun week for football in the Suburban League.
No doubt, guys. The Suburban League had some barn burners here, and yet you had the games that were played as is normal. We'll spend more time talking about the Nordonia and Wadsworth game here soon, in about 18 minutes with our guests here. Sean, briefly, we talked about Revere last week, and would they be able to maintain the momentum they've had, and can they beat some of those other teams that aren't Highland or Aurora in the conference? And they passed their first test. They passed a good test there by defeating Barberton. That's a game that they normally don't win against a good team like Barberton. And Barberton a little bit down this year. They got Highland this week. A game's going to be played. We know that. Things may not go their way against Highland, but beyond that, they finished with Copley and they finished with Kent Roosevelt. Copley also finds themselves in a situation where they picked up some wins. Copley has already played Aurora and Highland in conference play this year. So for the rest of their conference schedule is looking just about as favorable as it is for Revere. So I'm looking to see how Copley and Revere, you can't forget about Talmadge obviously either, for that matter, but we'll see if Revere can maintain their winning ways. Talmadge and Copley sliding into that number 3 spot behind the inevitable clash of Aurora and Highland in Week 10.
Yeah, I mean we're facing up to that, and that's not to take anything away from this week's matchups. Going on the road to a Kent Roosevelt team, if Kent Roosevelt does what they want to do, they could catch Aurora looking ahead. Same thing with Highland. Look, Revere's not a team that they're overlooking, and Coach Gibbons will be the first one to tell you. They got playmakers on both sides of the ball. They got a good defense. They hung in with Aurora when they played them when I was there. It wasn't a blowout by any means. It got kind of away from them towards the end of that game. But, they held in there and traded blows with Aurora. So they're not above going in and, maybe shocking the Suburban League American Division world and saying, look, we put Highland on their heels. Do I think it happens? It could, but I doubt it, just the way the Highland is just, again, these two teams, Aurora and Highland, are the model of consistency. They do it the same way every week, and that's why it's so effective. These are well-coached teams. They know what they are, and they do it well. When on the flip side, you look at a team like Revere, you look at a team like Talmadge, and even now a team like Copley's starting to find some success. Again, Cuyahoga Falls may not have been a top-tier opponent like an Aurora or a Highland, but look, you still got to win those games, and they did very well. They didn't have a lot of mistakes, and that was interesting because even when they got into the point where it was out of hand, and the game did get out of hand right before halftime, it was pretty much a running clock since the middle of the second quarter, and even with that, there weren't a lot of mistakes on Copley's end, and you kind of would expect that when the game's out of reach for the other team. But they were very disciplined throughout the remainder of that game. So that's a tip of the hat there. Talmadge, again, ran into a buzzsaw on Aurora. I like where those three teams are. Revere and Talmadge being that tier 2, and then that Copley kind of that dark horse right now. They got to have some things fall their way. They got to beat Barberton this week, and Barberton's not an easy out by any means because they traded paint with Revere. But I think if Copley can take care of business, they should definitely be a playoff team. And who knows, the way things shake out, they may even end up, who knows, getting an opportunity to host a game. I doubt it, but they got an outside shot if they take care of business.
Is that actually a keyhole thing?
That is not. I think it is, son. Sorry, Eddie is into locks and like keys and locks now. It is a lock though. How good of a game Nordonia and Wadsworth is, and another lock is going to be Aurora in Highland here in a few weeks. Like you said, Sean, no one's going to look over anybody. You can't do that. You can't afford to do that in high school football, let alone in the South in the American Division or American Conference. Josh, briefly over to you for the Natty. Twinsburg has already played the 3 juggernauts in Wadsworth, Hudson, and Nordonia, and obviously those games didn't go the way they wanted them to. But now they get a real tough win over Solon. The rest of their schedule is setting up to possibly slot into that number 4 spot. They do play North Worldton, which came from their slumber and absolutely put it on Stowe last week. Then they got Brecksville, and then they got Stowe Monroe Falls in a rivalry game at the end of the year there. We've talked to Coach Salter a few times over the last few years.
Take it.
You can take those with you. over the last few years. And
Nice.
I'm looking forward to seeing. Joey Pollock had a tremendous game last week. We'll see if Twinsburg can maintain that momentum going forward, Josh.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I was just looking as we were talking, I was just looking at, that was a huge win by Twinsburg because that was, kind of the last, a last opportunity to get some pretty big points there with the foreseeable end of their schedule being looks to be really winnable games on paper. Solon, that was a tough loss for them, but they still have to play Wadsworth and Hudson, so it's going to be a tough road. But these two teams are really close towards the back end of the Division II Region 5 playoffs. I believe. Let me look real quick. Sorry,
yeah, Twinsburg at 14 right now.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. Yeah, wasn't prepared. Twinsburg 14, followed by Solon at 15, and they're right there. And then followed that 16 and 17 North and Louisville. They're not very far away. So those right now for both these teams, every win counts. But when they play each other, that win was even bigger for Twinsburg for sure. And it was nice to see Joey Pollock finally get back on that track. I know he was our week 2 Raymond Felton State Farm Player of the Week for week 2, and he really picked up his game last week.
Same with Joe Kinney from North Royalton. I mean, we talked about Coach Truly talked about him pretty efficiently at the beginning of the season, and he had a breakout game this week as well. So between some players that we were used to seeing put up numbers, it was nice to see them put up those numbers.
I agree.
Are you going to bed? Yeah. All right. Good night, little bear. Bear loves you. One you never know.
Love it, tender moment here on Sports on Tap. We are definitely a family show.
There it is.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the
right.
best part was when he was climbing up there. This time it wasn't in the cookie jar.
No, he did that earlier, so he got that out of the way.
He found the golden tickets, though.
He
found the golden tickets.
Ed, can I ask another question? Was he cleaning earlier? During Sean's recap, it looked like he had either a broom or a Swiffer, something wrong.
Yeah, he had some sort of a device like that. I'm not exactly sure what he was trying to pick up, and now it's
impressive.
On the basement now. I don't know. All right,
that's impressive. You got
great job. Great job by Sean and Josh with the Suburban League as always, and we'll be hearing from them a little bit more when we talk to Calix, Lemp, and Coach Justin Todd. They're going to be coming up here soon in about 10 minutes. So let's shift over to the Cleveland West Conference, and we had some pretty decent games on the docket here. Really, only one blowout here. Let's start with Bay versus Valley Forge. As we briefly mentioned this in the preview to this game when we talked with Braden Capretto from Bay. We didn't think there's going to be many passes thrown in this game, given the nature of their offenses, and that was completely true. But it was Rocco Reditario. He scored 2 touchdowns, one from 1 yard out and another one from 3 yards out to account for the scoring for Bay. Charlie Rogers from Bay also, he intercepted Valley Forge quarterback Lucas Schillinger. Damon Watts from the Patriots, he did cut the lead in half with a 4-yard touchdown run. The Rockets defense was able to hold in the fourth quarter, and they recovered a muffed punt to hang on to a 12-6 victory. Bay gets the victory over Valley Forge. With the win, Bay moves to 4-3 overall. They are 2-2 in the conference play. Right now, they are number 8 in Division 4, Region 14. Man, I say that. Say that 10 times. Oh no, sorry, they're 7 right now. They moved to number 7 over the weekend. Valley Forge, they fall to 2-5 overall. They are 1-3 in conference play. They're number 20 in Division 2, Region 6. All right, Buckeye took on Westlake, and Buckeye, tell you what, their defense has been on another level. Their defense is, I'm not going to guarantee it, but their defense is getting real close to being the Player of the Week nominee, the Raven Felton State Farm Insurance Player of the Week nominees here. But for Buckeye, efficiency was the name of the game for the Bucks offense. They scored on drives that lasted 1 play twice, 3 plays once, and 4 plays another. So in my math says 9 plays, they scored 4 touchdowns. That's about as efficient as it gets. On defense, They recovered 2 fumbles, and then Liam Phillips also got an interception. Buckeye Junior quarterback Turner Delata completed 5 of 8 passing for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also rushed 3 times for 6 yards and a touchdown. Buckeye senior running back Troy McCann rushed 14 times for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. This was a stat from the Medina County Gazette, of course. The Medina Gazette, a tremendous source of information, and really great work on this article, as they always do. According to Albert Grindle, 54 rushing touchdowns for McCann. That is tied for the most in school history, so we would expect him to surpass that this coming week. Buckeye senior wide receiver Trey Weidenmeyer. There's a guarantee, death taxes, and every time he catches a pass, it usually goes for a touchdown. He had 2 catches for 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. He is the model of efficiency. Bucks running back Ryan Wilhelm, he had 95 yards and 4 rushes for 2 touchdowns. So you just see the numbers that Buckeye piles up. Again, they are successful when they are able to run the ball. And again, not that Turner Delata or Casey Murray in years past can't pass the ball, but they're mostly successful when he's able to run that play action and set up Trey Weidenmeyer for those long passes. 8 passes he attempted for over 100 yards. That's usually the stat line for a Buckeye quarterback, and in no way am I demeaning that. That's exactly how they play, and that's how they succeed. For Westlake, senior quarterback Sam Boucheri completed 15 of 26 passing for 111 yards, a touchdown. He also had a pick. He also rushed 13 times for 81 yards. Dom Napoli from Westlake cut 6 passes for 80 yards and a touchdown. And running back Jake Ostrowski had 11 rushes for 54 yards. With the win, Buckeye improves to 6-1 overall. They are 4-0 in the Cleveland West Conference. They are number 4 in Division III, Region 10. Westlake falls to 2-5 overall. They have yet to win in the conference, and right now they are on the outside looking in, just barely, number 17 in Division II, Region 6. Normandy took on Lakewood, and admittedly, I couldn't find a whole lot on this game. I do know that Elijah Gray had what we expect from Elijah Gray. He had a couple touchdowns. He had a 34-yard touchdown pass to Mario Stewart. Then he also rushed for a touchdown in the first half. But Lakewood took over from there. They had multiple turnovers, multiple sacks. Quarterback Avery Holt had a 52-yard touchdown run. I have to imagine he had a few more touchdown runs in there too. Unfortunately, I just couldn't find a whole lot of information about this one. But with the win, Lakewood gets the 32-24 victory over Normandy. Lakewood is 4-3 overall. They are 2-2 in the conference. Right now, they are number 13 in Division II, Region 6. Normandy falls to 2-5 overall. They are 1-3 in conference play. They are number 13 in Division I, Region 1. We also now, let's get to this game was insane. Rocky River versus North Olmsted. Now, Rocky River was without star quarterback junior Ryan Taylor for this game. So senior wide receiver and safety Josh Mammers moved over to the quarterback spot. And you have to take that in consideration with this game. But North Olmsted, they gave Rocky River all they can handle. After a scoreless first quarter, both teams stopped the other on downs. The Eagles got on the board first with a 1-yard touchdown run by Tommy Horsfall. The Pirates answered with a touchdown pass from Mammers to Ben Bogra for a 7-7 tie. Mammers then gave the Pirates a lead. He had a touchdown run to start the third quarter. But North Olmsted, they were able to block a 37-yard field goal attempt by senior kicker Stephen Kane. You'll hear his name here in a little bit. Horsfeld then connected with senior wide receiver Michael Passafiumi on a 59-yard touchdown pass to tie the game at 14. With just 5 minutes left in the game, the Eagles actually sat Mammers in the end zone for a safety, and they took a 16-14 lead. So they got the ball back with 5 minutes left in the game. The Pirates got a defensive stop. They got a long punt return from senior Oren Grieve to start the last drive in Eagle territory. I'm not going to get into speculation. We'll just kind of leave it at that as far as that punt's concerned. But the Pirates were able to get into Eagle territory, and as time expired, Stephen Kane connected on a 21-yard field goal to win the game for the Pirates, and they narrowly escaped by the slimmest of margins a 17-16 victory over North Olmsted. We talked about this last week. North Olmsted is starting to round into form, and I was really interested in seeing how they were going to play in this game. Now, that was before I knew Ryan Taylor was not playing. They were in a very good spot to win the game, but Rocky River does what Rocky River does. They found a way to win. Rocky River with the win moves to 6-1 overall, 4-0 in the conference. They are number 2 in Division III, Region 10. North Olmsted drops to 2-5 overall. They're 2-2 in the conference, and they are in playoff positioning. They are number 16 in Division II, Region 6. My CWC Player of the Week nominee for the Raven Felton State Farm Insurance Player of the Week contest is none other than Rocky River kicker Stephen Kane. 21 yards to win the game over North Olmsted. I am a former kicker. Any chance I can find a way to get a kicker into that poll, I will do it. And that's exactly what happened here. So my nepotism knows no bounds. So there we go for North Olmsted, for Rocky River kicker Stephen Kane. Let's check out Week 8 now, and we do have Bay Village will travel to North Olmsted. I think that's gonna be a great game between some teams that are highly competitive. And North Olmsted, again, their defense has been pretty good the entire year. Now their offense is starting to catch up. Valley Forge will travel to Lakewood. We'll see the running attack of Valley Forge against the aerial attack of Avery Holt and Jalen Chappell. Buckeye will go to Byers Field to take on Normandy. We will see that vaunted Buckeye running attack and see what their defense can do against an elite quarterback that is Elijah Gray. And then Westlake, they're going to get a crack at Rocky River. See if Taylor comes back this week for Rocky River. For Westlake, still trying to find their first conference win under Logan Yantak. Sam Brucheri does a lot of great things for Westlake. We'll see if he can get some help and get the Demons in the spot to take on Rocky River. That is what we got for the Cleveland West Conference. For now, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we will be joined by Calix Lemp from the Wadsworth Grizzlies and also head coach Justin Todd to talk about that absolute thriller of a game against Nordonia, and also just talk about how the Wadsworth Grizzlies have been doing over the course of the season. Stick around for more for our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is on every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Watch live on YouTube and make sure to subscribe. Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is presented by Raymond Felton State Farm.
Have you compared insurance rates lately? Are you satisfied with your current insurance provider? If not, look no further than Ray Felton State Farm, a proud sponsor of Sports on Tap. For a free quote, call his office at 234-284-2996 or visit him online at rayfelton.com.
Whether you're hosting a corporate event, wedding, conference, concert, or any other special gathering, our comprehensive range of services will exceed your expectations and elevate your event to new heights. RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. Visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com.
We've got the experience, the passion, and the beach to make your event a smash hit. Whether it's a romantic wedding, a lively sports venue, or a rocking high school dance, Troutland Entertainment has you covered. Contact them at 330-414-4261 or email them at troutlandent@gmail.com. That's troutlandent@gmail.com.
Welcome back to the Sports on Tap High School Football Recap Show presented by Raymond Felton State Farm Insurance, located in beautiful Hudson, Ohio. We are going through the Week 7 football recaps. You just got a word from all of our sponsors. Make sure you listen later on the show from a word for our sponsors there as well. We just went through Week 7 through all of our various conferences. Coming up, we will have the Raymond Felton State Farm Insurance Player of the Week poll results. We will also be telling you where we are going to be on the sidelines this week. We got some Thursday games and Friday games going on this week, so we'll be multitasking there with the different days. And then later in this week, make sure you follow us on Twitter again at SOT Podcast to get our Power 10 rankings, which will be coming out later this week. For now, we are joined by two individuals from one of the best teams in the area. They had 2 overtime thrillers against very good competition last week against Hudson, and 2 weeks against Hudson, last week against Nordonia. We're joined by junior Calix Lemp and head coach of the Wadsworth Grizzlies, Justin Todd. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time out of your week to join us. We know you guys are knee deep in preparation, ready for the next opponent, but we can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Calix, let's start with you. Obviously, you had a pretty big catch at the end of the game last week in overtime. Talk about the play, and then talk about how the game flowed, and as far from your perspective last week against Nordonia.
Yeah, so all game it was a battle. You know, it was hard moving the ball both sides. We're having some pass plays, some long runs, scoring touchdowns, things going wrong, things going right, and it got down to overtime. And when the play was called up, me and Bryson, we had already known, kind of he wanted to go to me during this pass play, and I was like, if he does throw it to me, I got to make a play. So yeah, it was a crazy experience, and had to do what I had to do.
Hey, Coach, from your perspective, obviously you've been a part of a lot of games as a head coach and even as a player. Talk about the ebbs and flows from your side as the coach here.
Well, I want to mention that that's 2 weeks in a row that Calix has caught the game-winning touchdown pass in overtime from Bryson. So it's pretty cool that it happened again. And there's a funny story that I just finished up meeting with our booster club, and I shared this story. So my son is also a freshman, and he's on the sidelines, and he's buddies with the freshman quarterback, Bryson Hall. And after Nordonia had scored and we blocked the extra point, Bryson looked at my son, nudged him, and said, "Hey, I'm getting ready to go throw a touchdown pass to Calix Lemp. I'll be right back." And so, yeah, he called his shot. So which was really cool. And I didn't believe my son. I thought he was making up a story until another kid confirmed it. He's like, "No, Coach, that actually happened." So I think that's pretty cool. Shows you the connection that Bryson and Calix have. And I see them working after practice together really almost every day, working on timing routes and various things. So not surprised, because both of those young men have elite work ethics and high character young men, and they're smart and ice in their veins. So I was not surprised at all that they made that play. What's special about it is, Calix, just being a junior, started for us in the defensive backfield as a freshman, and then was going to be a two-way starter last year as a sophomore. And I don't know, maybe the second or third play of the actually, it was the first play of game 1 last year. He got injured and really missed most of his sophomore year. So for him to be able to come back and, have the year that he's having so far and make so many big plays it's been really rewarding to watch, because he's an incredible young man with elite work ethic and character, and all the superlatives you could say about a young man, Calix matches those. And so it's been really great to see.
Yeah, Calix, I'd like to expound on that a little bit more, because when you're facing a bunch of injuries like that and you lose a lot of your season, that can play a lot of that can play out a player's mentality, how they just how they feel about the game. Going into the offseason last year and then going into this season, what are some of the things that you've done to kind of physically and mentally prepare yourself and what
Yeah.
you've done thus far to really, so far have a very successful season.
Wow. So going into this off season, last year, as we said, I injured. So I fractured part of my tibia in that first play of the game. And then I'd worked myself like back from that injury. And then not many people know this, but I also had 2 more surgeries during the off season. They're like genetic disorders where like I had an extra piece of bone in my leg and in my ankle. So I was also out of commission for those. So for about 9 months, I had to work back from all 3 of those different injuries. And pretty much I got to put it up to God, first of all. He helped me, and he was a very big mentor in my life, and I've gotten very close to him. And so I went through so much physical therapy, and every day I was consistent. I was consistent on getting to bed at like pretty much 9 to 9:30 every night. I was doing my physical therapy multiple times a day. And on the weekends, I would almost cut out doing a lot of stuff to focus on myself getting back there because I had that drive and I really wanted to be back on the field with my teammates. I'm currently doing IVs. I do therapy like cold therapy, and then I just take care of my body with my eating and all that stuff, and I really put the time in on the work like on the field. That was one of the big aspects of it. And then I also got to give thanks to my personal trainer, Pack Performance, who got me back from these injuries as well.
So what you're saying is white chicken chili and garlic bread is a key to key performance.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
All right. A little behind the scenes for everyone. So
Calix and Coach Todd, thank you so much, guys, for taking the time. And it was a pleasure for me to be at that unbelievable classic game. Calix, I mean, when Wadsworth scored that touchdown with 4:56 left to go in the game, and then when you guys had a 4th down and 12 and Bryson made that great pass to you, and then, you guys were down once again in overtime. Just kind of talk about what was going through your guys' mind when you were down even before that 4th down and 12 play and even throughout that overtime period.
Yeah, so we had been down at that point in time, and these are my favorite type of games. Not saying like I would rather be in a slugfest, and I'd rather be battling it out with my boys and all my teammates on the field rather than a blowout. And this game, we had known all week when preparing that it was going to be one of these types of games. And going through there, we trusted our play calling. We trusted what we had been doing all during the week. And when it came down to making these plays and doing these things is what we've been practicing all through the off season. And it was almost like second nature to us. So.
Yeah, and Coach Todd. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
I was just going to ask Coach Todd and Calix. The sudden swings, I think, for you guys in these last 2 weeks specifically, have been pretty jarring. You block an extra point, which we talked about in the recap. Not something you see a lot, and especially the high school game. From a standpoint of coaching. What are those things you're trying to maintain with your team when you have those sudden switches or those sudden changes? Because that's a big part of football that, needs to be addressed and needs to be coached up, I think, a little bit, especially at this level. Coach, sure. What are some of the things you're reminding your kids whenever there's those sudden change things that maybe go your way, but also on the flip side, don't go your way?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time in the summer and preseason camp going through those types of situations. So whether it's, down in distance or, 4th down, we do a lot of 2-minute drill things. And we consistently harp on our players about, it's a next play mentality. And I think they've really taken to that. The last play doesn't matter. The next play won't. It's this play. And our kids, it's a really mature group, so they've taken on that mentality of you're right, there's going to be ups and downs throughout the game, but the reality is that whatever just happened, good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter. It's this next play, and that's the only thing that we can control. So control the controllables, focus on this particular rep, and let's make sure that we maximize that play.
I also want to say, Calix, are you at all concerned that given another overtime game or close game towards the end, that you're not going to have not one, not two, perhaps 3 guys knowing where you are at all at all times, given how prolific you've been towards the close of these games?
For me, I would like to say it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm going to go out there and make plays regardless. I hope more people to put on me. It makes more people open on the rest of my field for my teammates.
That's a good answer.
That's a great answer. Coach Todd, congratulations on back-to-back overtime wins. The beginning of the season, you guys put up a lot of points. I mean, you look 42, 42, 51, 55, and 56 in your first half of the season there. And, they weren't too close at games, and now you get some overtime games, which I think says a lot about your team. It's easy to just put up a lot of points, and, it's a blowout. You can get bored quickly. All of a sudden, you get in these overtime games, and it really shows, I think, what your team is made out of. How did you keep your team focused each and every week to that major goal at the end of the season, which is obviously a championship?
Sounds cliche, but that's the approach we try to take. It is a day by day. We talk about, listen, you need to prepare adequately Monday through Thursday, so that way you can dominate the competition on Friday. And I tell our guys, like, good teams show up on Friday and they win because of their talent. Great teams show up on Friday and dominate because they've put the work in Monday through Thursday. And so I know a lot of people preach it, but it's really important in our program that every single day is new and is an opportunity to learn and grow. And again, I can't stress this enough, how mature of a group that we have. They've taken that mindset, a very process-oriented group that doesn't get too high or too low. They want to maximize who they are. I mean, you heard Calix talking about all the different things he did individually, and we have a lot of young men like that. I mean, he's a pretty special kid, but we've got a lot of guys that take their health, their nutrition, their wellness, their physical fitness, the mental part of the game, all of that. They take it really, really serious. And what's great about that is that culturally it helps us when you've got the upperclassmen that are doing that. The younger guys, they consider those guys their friends, role models, and they look to those guys. And so those are things that are being passed on down to our lower level programs. And I'm witnessing that within our team. Whether it be the middle school level or the freshman level, you just see guys putting more and more time into the film room and taking practice more serious. And so it's been a lot of fun. But we had an idea that once we got through that first half of the season, that we were getting ready to jump into a buzzsaw week 6 and week 7. So really proud that our kids could withstand playing 4 quarters and beyond and continue to swing even in that overtime period, and have some moments that came up big for our community.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned it here. You mentioned it with with the underclassmen and really upperclassmen taking the underclassmen under their wings, and the underclassmen really taken to the upperclassmen. Even when we were growing up, that wasn't always the case. The upperclassmen kind of did their own thing, and the underclassmen, were I want to say segregated, but it was just, there was a clear divide here.
Sure.
With your team, a lot of your players that are juniors this year started as sophomores.
Yeah.
You're also starting a freshman this year at
True.
quarterback. So it's, talk about how that evolution here of the sophomores last year had earned the playing time, and the seniors, I want to say allowed that to happen, but we're like, all right, great. We have, we just want to win. Doesn't matter who's on the field. Not a whole lot of seniors would take that route, but you've gotten your seniors to buy into that, not only this year, but not only last year, but also this year with a very strong junior class and Bryson as the quarterback.
Yeah, it takes a special group of guys to be selfless. We preach that in our program, and football is one of the few sports left that you have to be completely selfless in order to be successful. And that's why I still coach this game, because it really does model and mirror what life is supposed to be. You're supposed to be a selfless person, give to others, lift others up, and that can't be found in any other sport more than football. And we talk a lot about that. We purposefully bring our middle school, or invite our middle school guys into our off-season morning lifts. So we have 8th graders. We have middle schoolers that will show up at 5:45 in the morning for one of our off-season lifts. And I think that it's very purposeful that we do that, because they start to earn the older guys' respect. We do a lot of work during the summer, our freshmen, these are eighth graders getting ready to be freshmen, are involved in every aspect of what we do with our older guys over the summer. And so again, when you work hard and when you sweat with someone else, when you work hard, when you're broken down, whether it's a coach verbally breaking down the whole unit or whatever that looks like, when guys go through that, the relationships are forged in the fire, and we purposefully bring our entire program together to do that, and you see that camaraderie build throughout the summer, and as you said, we've got older players on our team that work so hard. They just want to be successful, and they want those guys around them to do the same things. They want them to work the right way, to study the right way, to act the right way. And in turn, they recognize that that's a recipe for success. And so if a younger guy can do that and do it at a high level, well, then let's bring them on and let's go.
Nice. I mean, kind of again to expound on that, and I'll wrap up here with Calix. You're looked upon now. You're a junior, but you're still, from what Coach Todd was talking about, and just your play on the field, you're looked upon as a leader for this team, and you developed a really good relationship with quarterback Bryson Hall. So just talk about, your transition from, being that young freshman and moving into like as you get older, a leadership role, and some of your goals that you're looking forward to, not only, this game coming up this week, but, for the rest of the season and beyond.
Yeah, so I really model myself off of some of the guys I learned from. So I had very good role models when I was coming up, starting as a freshman. I listened to players like Will Stack, like the Figure, and all of them, and they taught me how to help and influence these people the right way. It's all about the team. So like all of us have bonded very well throughout the off season with both team camps we do, all the practices, the 6-hour days. You got to stick together, and at those points where you're just feeling like giving up, there has to be someone to stand up and lead. And I have felt like they have taught me well, and now I need to pass that on and show good leadership towards these people. And just like with Bryson now, he's already taking on that leadership role. This kid spends more time in film than I've ever known. He's dedicated on and off the field, and he's doing all the right stuff to become a great player. Well, he already is, but he's maturing very well, and he's becoming a really big piece in our program, as you guys have seen already.
Well, the Wadsworth Grizzlies are going to be taking on the Stowe Monroe Falls Bulldogs coming up this week. This will be their last, presumably their last. There will be their last away game of the year. They started out on the road 4 to the first 5. They got 4 to the last 5 at home. They just went through, as Coach Todd mentioned, a buzzsaw, but the job's not done yet. I know these guys. I know Coach Todd, with the Mount Union education that he has, knows that you cannot take anyone too lightly. Coach Karras drove that into our heads pretty efficiently. So good luck this week. Coach Todd, congrats on your 100th win as the head coach of Wadsworth as well. Calix, congratulations so far in your season, and we look forward to see what the Wadsworth Grizzlies are going to do for the rest of the season and certainly beyond. So thank you very much again for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you guys having us on. Have a great night.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you guys too.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
As junior wide receiver Calix Lemp and head coach Justin Todd of the Wadsworth Grizzlies. As a Calix, he's got 2 consecutive weeks where he caught the game-winning touchdown in overtime. Obviously, last week Jack Dinwiddie had to make sure it went through with the extra point, and Dinwiddie is one of the best kickers in Medina County history. So Coach Todd's sure is quite fortunate for that one. And they take on Stowe Monroe Falls. Stowe took one a little bit. It wasn't their best week last week, but we all know that the Natty is a buzzsaw, and any team can come up and get you at any moment in time. And just a great look at what a successful program is. We've talked about teams and programs and like Josh, and Wadsworth has been on the program side of things even before Coach Todd got there, when Coach Dennison was there.
Yeah, they really have continued that tradition and have actually probably improved on it. Just the amount of young players that they've gained varsity experience over the last few years, and it's really paying dividends. And we mentioned it a few times, but you cannot underestimate how Bryson Hall is playing for that team. He is lights out, and he's only a freshman. It's similar to that of the Menor, how they always had those freshman quarterbacks that started and played well and had really good careers. And Wadsworth has what seems to be one of their own. And you could tell they are a professional program to always keeping what's on the front. The next game is the next game and not looking too far forward. They're going to be a really tough out, and they're most likely going to make a really long run in the playoffs. So it's going to be fun to watch.
You got to love the confidence from a freshman, though, saying, "Hey, hang on a second, I'm about to go toss a touchdown pass to win this game in overtime."
Crazy.
That's an insane amount of confidence for a freshman at the varsity level. I don't care who you are. You got to love that.
He called the receiver too, so I'll give him credit for that.
He had a parlay going.
Right now, Wadsworth sits number 3 in Division II, Region 6. Last few years, they've been bouncing around between Division II and Division I. They're back in Division II. So there's certainly no shortage of worthy opponents in Division II, Region 6. Obviously, the Avon Eagles reside in that one, and we'll look to see how the season shakes out there. But those two teams have a chance to meet up later in the playoffs. All right, let's shift over to the Raymond Felton State Farm Insurance Player of the Week contest. We'll shift it over to Josh and Rob to handle this one. Go ahead, guys.
All right, Rob. So let me know when you're getting ready to put that up. But just a reminder, it is on our Twitter at SOT Podcast. The Week 7 Raymond Felton State Farm Player of the Week nominees for this week were Zach Barnard of North Ridgeville, Stephen Kane of Rocky River, J.J. Pleasant of Strogsville, Jason Baines Jr. of Copley. And with 49.3% of the votes, almost half, Ed, this is all you, my friend. Stephen Kane from Rocky River. He is our Week 7 Raymond Felton State Farm Player of the Week. He's going to be sent.
Wait, how many votes did Ed have in this?
Yeah,
all the kickers are coming out of the woodwork for this. They're probably jumping up and down, and I bet you every kicker came out, man. They really showed up.
The Great Lakes Conference / Cleveland West Conference is now at least 2-0 when a kicker is the Player of the Week nominee for the conference. Here's your obligatory Sean Evil Sizer moment of the show. Obviously, Westlake kicker Sean Evil Sizer got it last year. I want to say there was a player. I don't know if he was on our show.
Was he from Rocky River? Did he hit a game winner?
From Rocky River. I don't know if he was Player of the Week, but he was on our show. But regardless of that, kickers sit together, folks. Kickers sit
Well,
together.
This whole time we thought Ed was Twitterless, but how many burner accounts do you have, Ed?
Question. I feel like because look, this is the first CWC player that's won. I think this year, correct? I think it's our first one. So congratulations. That's a fantastic amount. But good on you for Rocky River coming for the votes and getting their player the victory here.
Yeah, he's going to be getting some Raymond Felton State Farm swag, and he's going to get a Player of the Week T-shirt that is brought to you by our new partner, Mako Apparel. That's going to be it's going to be a sweet shirt. We've Rob sent out a picture of it. It looks pretty sweet. So congratulations on that one. That's 2 years in a row we've had winners. So congratulations to you. And hey, man, in this. At the varsity level, having a strong kicker is a weapon for teams.
No doubt. You're seeing it more, actually. A lot of these high school kickers, Ethan Morris, I know from Midview, that kid's kicking all over the place. And a lot of these guys are relying on the high school kickers a lot more. And they're getting it done. They're kicking from a little bit further than just 30 yards. They're 40 yards out, from what I've seen. So it's impressive.
Well, look at Vincent Di Teodoro or Vincenzo, I call it Vinny. Di Teodoro from Brunswick. His only misses are from 50 plus, and so the coach, he's clearly gained the trust of Coach Carter and the Brunswick coaches to be able to hit those long ones, or at least to try them out in a game. Quite honestly, I don't believe 50-yarders were even tried when I was around, and even some of the kickers that I had, like Kyle Holtz and Jeff Kravitz. Justin Hagler. These are some all-time kickers in Brunswick history, and they didn't really get a chance at those ones themselves. Now, the opportunity and the situation also has to lend itself to that happening. Make no mistake, but Vinny, as a junior, no less, has earned that trust of Coach Carter. You see some guys, Avon and Amal Lake have traditionally had strong kickers. Menor has had strong kickers. Solon has had strong kickers. So you're exactly right. I can go on and on, but I'm not going to do that. So let's
we might have to
congratulations.
have a show for that for you, Ed. We'll have a kickers special. Maybe the kickers you. Is that something you want to start? Or a little kickers you?
I will. Well, we have a very small but mighty fraternity. I should also mention my cousin Timmy Dick also had pretty good range. He was in the middle of all those guys, and he was really, really good. He didn't get as much run as the other guys did because unfortunately that season didn't go the way that Brunswick wanted it to. But my cousin Timmy was phenomenal as a kicker for Brunswick. All right, where are we going for week 8, folks?
Who's starting us off? Don't be shy.
I'll go because my game is the first of the week. I'm actually going to now I can't confirm this, but I think Noah, you are correct. This is the first time SOT will ever have a featured game on a Thursday, as I will be heading to North Royalton, the state in the Natty, as Twinsburg travels to North Royalton, which I think is going to be a really good game and a big game, as we mentioned earlier, for the Tigers as they look to solidify their playoff chances.
You heading to the Shake Shop beforehand?
Got to.
You better.
Got to.
You can neither confirm nor deny.
I mean, you could go after, but I don't know how late they're open.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know.
Don't worry, they might save you one before the game, maybe.
That's right. Order ahead, man.
Listen, if you're going to North Worldton, you got to find. I know you guys usually stay on the field, but you got to get up into the press box. So the press box food in North Worldton is so good. Pizza, wings from I don't know where they're from, doesn't matter, but they are phenomenal. So see if you can sneak yourself up there at halftime.
Yeah, I would. No doubt.
Will do.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, after taking last week off in the GCC, and what a great instant classic game that I covered last week, but it'll be nice to head back into the Greater Cleveland Conference this week, as this was a playoff matchup last year that I covered in the regional semis last year. I'll be headed back to my alma mater, Medina. They will be taking on Cleveland Heights and Marquise Davis after coming off a big road win against the River Rounds Panthers, 14-7. Medina looking to bounce back after a tough home loss against Strongville. I really think this game is going to be coming down to how Medina's defense will be really containing Marquise Davis. Remember, last year in week 8, Marquise Davis rushed for 359 yards last year. But in that playoff game, he only rushed for 193 yards. So how can that Cleveland Heights offense really continue to respond against a Medina defense that's looking to continue defining their ways? That's really the big question coming into this week for Medina.
Very good. Cleveland Heights and Medina, Twinsburg, North Royalton. Where else are we going?
All right, I guess I will go next. And, you know, this game, it's going to be fun. And I know Hudson at 4-3 taking on Nordonia at 6-1. You know, the records could be a little bit deceiving considering Hudson has lost to Highland, and they lost by 7. They lost to Hoover by 11, and they lost in overtime to Wadsworth by 7. So both of these teams have lost in overtime to the Grizzlies. And I think this could be a really good game because Hudson is starting to get on track here. Nordonia is coming off a loss. How are they going to bounce back? I think this could be a really good game and a close game at that.
Of course it is, Rob. It's the Natty. They're all good, baby. Welcome.
It's going to be a fun game. So I'm heading to Nordonia to see the Knights and the Explorers match up in the Suburban League. The Natty, the nasty Natty, as Josh Jeffy would see.
That leaves yours truly. And the question that everyone wants to know is where in the world is Professor Hyde going in week 8? And that question is, I got to make it up. I got to make it up, guys, because I tried to cover a game earlier in the year here, and Mother Nature decided to dump, I don't know, 15 inches of water on top of me. and make my phone not work. So I'm coming back, baby. I'm coming back to Lakewood. I'm going to watch Lakewood, and I'm going to watch Valley Forge, and I'm interested to see this game because it really is a match with two competing styles. Valley Forge, as Ed mentioned in his recap, is a run-first team, and a very run-dominant team, whereas Lakewood tends to toss the ball around the yard a little bit. So we'll see the battle of two conflicting styles here. I'm very interested to see this game. But again, I told you, Lakewood, I would make it up to you, and this is how I do it. I bring the fun back to this game. I'll be at Lakewood Stadium, running up and down. Hopefully, I will not have to wear a poncho, wring out my clothes, or, I don't know, have to swim to my car. There was a lot of things going on that night, but I'm happy to be back. I'll be heading back to Lakewood. I'm excited. It should be a good game.
Well, folks, if you just heard Sean Duffy right, you want to go see him. He said he's going to be running up and down the side. I mean, that's something everybody wants to see.
Well, Sean, just so you know, the forecast for Friday looks to be mostly sunny with a high of 72.
Ooh, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
So get your running shoes on, homie. You're going to be running.
Yeah, when I say running, I'm using the loosest term possible. Like I may walk briskly, but running is not something you want. No one wants to see me run.
I've seen it, and you are definitely correct.
Everybody wants to see that.
It's not pretty. People get concerned for me. There's like a whole will they, won't, will he not be able to make it? And then I get all red. It's a whole thing, and we don't need it. There's a lot of things in this world that don't need to be seen. That is definitely at the top of the list. You do not need to see your boy run because it's not a pretty sight. Looks like a bear got loose, and he's running away from,
another bear.
Rangers. Yeah.
Fair enough. There we go, guys. All right, so Noah is going to be at Cleveland Heights and Medina. Josh will be at Twinsburg versus North Royalston. That game will be on Thursday, so make sure you're tuned into our Twitter mentions. Our Twitter, follow us on Twitter on Thursday night for live updates of Twinsburg and North Royalton. Rob will be at Hudson against Nordonia, and Sean will be at Valley Forge versus Lakewood. That's going to do it for the Week 7 recap of the high school football season. Thank you very much for watching us again live on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe for Sports on Tap. Follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcasts. Make sure you check out you can also listen to us on Spotify at Sports on Tap. We're on Threads at SOT_podcasts. Follow us on Facebook at Sports on Tap. And of course, our website is sportsontappodcast.com. Questions, comments, concerns, specifically for Sean's hamstrings when he runs, make sure you send those to sportsontappodcast at gmail.com. We thank you. We thank Calix, Lemp, and head coach of the Wadsworth Grizzlies, Justin Todd, for joining us again tonight. So make sure you come back with us same time, same place next Monday at 7:30 p.m. To get our Week 8 recaps and who we're going to have on and what we're going to be talking about for Week 9. I will let the cat out of the bag already. We will be at Rocky River versus Buckeye in Week 9. That will more than likely be the Fat-Dove Cleveland West Championship game, depending on what happens this week. But that is one game that we will be at in Week 9. And, of course, later this week, the Power 10 will be coming out for Week 7. Avon, no surprise, will remain the top team. Another team is making their way up through the bubble. I expanded the bubble, actually, to include this team on there. So I have some, I have high hopes for them. You wouldn't like. Here's a hint: it's not a team you wouldn't think I would normally support. I'll just leave it at that. But they have earned their way to this part in the bubble.
We're not biased or nothing.
No, not at all. Not at all. So with that, for Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy, Noah Jacobson, and Professor Hype, Sean Duffy, my name is Ed Dick. This has been the High School Football Show recap show presented by Raymond Felton State Farm Insurance. This is Sports on Tap, and we'll see you on the other side.
Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is on every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Watch live on YouTube and make sure to subscribe. Sports on Tap's high school football coverage is presented by Raymond Felton State Farm.
Have you compared insurance rates lately? Are you satisfied with your current insurance provider? If not, look no further than Ray Felton State Farm, a proud sponsor of Sports on Tap. For a free quote, call his office at 234-284-2996 or visit him online at rayfelton.com.
Whether you're hosting a corporate event, wedding, conference, concert, or any other special gathering, our comprehensive range of services will exceed your expectations and elevate your event to new heights. RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. Visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com.
We've got the experience, the passion, and the beach to make your event a smash hit. Whether it's a romantic wedding, a lively sports venue, or a rocking high school dance, Troutland Entertainment has you covered. Contact them at 330-414-4261 or email them at troutlandent@gmail.com. That's troutlandent@gmail.com.